Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vincent, and I'll be teaching the course. You probably have received an email from me already. That's how you get the link to come to the class. So welcome to GS 182, which is your introductory biology course. So before we get started, I would like to go through some of the basic things about the course, where you will find the notes and about the test and the quiz and stuff like that. Um, this is going to be a recorded session, as with all the classes, they are all going to be recorded. So if you missed something that I said, or you want to revisit some of the concepts later on, you will have access to the recordings, and I'll tell you where to find them after class as well. And if you have questions anytime during the class, you can just unmute yourself and ask the questions, or you can type it in the chat box. That way, it also works, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Okay. Did you guys have a class this morning yet, or am I your first class for the semester?
Yes, we did.
Class in the morning.
Okay, some of you had a class in the morning. Okay, great. So this is the course homepage, and everything you need for the course is already posted up in the course homepage. All right, if you have not had a chance to access the course shell yet, I just posted the link in the chat box. You can click on it and access it. Let me switch to the student view so it looks the same as what you see. When you go onto the course homepage, you will see the news section. This is where I will be posting important information such as test dates and quiz dates and the kind of questions and the number of questions you'll be expecting. I'll also be posting information about upcoming assignments, like if there's a lab that's going to be due, I'll remind you. And also I'll give you links to find recordings and class notes and so on and so forth. So anytime you read the news items, these blue things, they are hyperlinks. You can click on it and it will take you directly to the page that I'm referring to. Okay, so do visit the eCentennial, that's what this platform is called, often, because that's where you would get the communication from me. I would also send out emails for important things. If there is a change in test days, or if there is an important announcement that I want to make sure that you get, I will be emailing it to you. So that would be your MyCentennial email. Okay, so please check that as well. When you email me, there are a couple of things that are important to remember. First of all, my email, let me type it out for you here, so my name is Vincent Wong, okay? And you can just call me Vincent, it's fine. My email is vwong@centennialcollege.ca. Okay. You will find my email at the first slide of every lecture notes. Okay, so more on the lecture notes later, but if you download the PowerPoints, you will see my email there as well. That is the best way to reach me if you need to get in touch with me for whatever reasons. Okay, if you're gonna miss the test or something because you're sick, or you have some other obligation, like doctor's appointment or something like that on test dates, and you're going to be missing it and you need to let me know, you can email me, right? If you have questions about the course, if you need help, extra help for some of the topics, email is the best way to reach me. You might be able to find my phone number somewhere on the course on the school webpage or something like that, but don't call me, okay? I don't actually have a phone with me, especially like on a virtual setting. Like I'm at home right now, right? So if you call me, the office phone's gonna ring. I'm not gonna be able to answer you. So email is the best way. I respond email quite quickly. If you don't hear back from me for more than 1 day, that means I did not get your email. Yeah, sometimes people send it to the wrong person. Sometimes it's just lost in the shuffle. So please just send again if you don't hear back from me for more than a day. Now, when you email me, is a good idea to use your Centennial email account. Sometimes if you email me from your Gmail or Hotmail account, the filter blocks them and it never gets to me. Okay, so just use the school email to be safe. And also, I am teaching several different classes at the same time, which means it's better if you tell me which class you are from. Right? So your course is GS 182 and your section is 202. Okay, so just tell me, hi, I am one of your students from GS 182, section 202, and then you can ask your questions. Because sometimes you email me and you're like, hey, what's on the next test? And then I'm like, well, it depends which class you're on, right? Even people who are taking the same class, if they're in different section, they might have different test time. So it just, saves me some time. I don't have to look you up and figure out which class you're from. Just tell me you are GS 182, you're from section 202. And even better, if you know your student number, you can put it after your name as well. Okay, so that's how you can reach me. All right, let's go back to our course homepage here for a second. Now, once you got onto here, what you want to do is you want to click on content. Okay, content. And again, this is all recorded. If you need to go back and take a look at the steps, you can do that later on. And when you click on lectures, you will see that there are 10 lectures in total in the course, okay? And they're all uploaded already. I mean, I don't know what your backgrounds are. Some of you might have taken biology recently from high school and you found this material to be manageable and you want to, go ahead and learn some of the later materials on your own first. You can do that. All the notes are posted. Okay? Some of you are taking biology for the first time, and that's okay as well. Okay, I'm gonna assume everybody is doing this for the first time. And so when I teach the concepts, I will start at a very basic level and try to go at a pace that is manageable for most people. Okay, so there are 10 lectures in total, which
So,
brings
Vincent, sorry, I'm interrupting you. These lectures are videos or
no, they
text?
are a very good question. Um, I will go and show you in a second, but they are just the PowerPoint slides, okay?
Okay.
The actual teaching happens online, right? In these what we call synchronous session. So we meet twice a week, every Monday and Wednesday, 12:30 to 2:20. Okay, so I will be teaching you the PowerPoints. We'll be actually taking notes as well. And that's going to be the face-to-face time that we have. Okay. Now I see that the whole class is here today. Fantastic. We actually only have 16 students for now. Maybe some people are late in registration, or maybe people prefer the in-person class. I don't know, but it's great that you guys are all here, and that's usually the case for the course. Okay, we have full attendance, and then people start to not show up for whatever reason. Okay, maybe they think, okay, I'll just watch the recordings later on. But statistically speaking, those who consistently come to class are the ones who perform better. Okay, when you come to face-to-face class, there's chance to ask questions. There is chance to do practice questions together, questions that might show up on your tests and quizzes, right? And it's just important to to have that habit and be present, right? Just twice a week for my class in the afternoon, Monday and Wednesday. So the course, as I was saying, has 2 units. Okay, Unit 1, which is lecture 1 to lecture 5. And then there is going to be Unit 2, which is lecture 6 to lecture 10. Okay, and within each of the unit, you are going to have 2 quizzes. So quiz 1 is going to be for material in lecture 1 and 2. You will have quiz number 2, which is for lecture 3 and 4. They are 10% each. And then there is going to be a 10% lab. You do not have to come to the campus for the lab. The lab is done online, virtually, at home. Okay, you don't have to buy anything either. Okay, like everything is just done in a virtual environment. I'll tell you more about it later. Okay, and then there's going to be a 20% test, which is lecture 1 to lecture 5. All right, and that's it for unit 1. Okay, after unit 1 test, after the first test, you can forget everything that you've learned. Okay, because in unit 2 we start fresh. Unit 2 is going to have the same setting. You're going to have quiz 3 and quiz 4, 10% each. You're going to have another 10% lab. And then you're going to have a final test. But the final test will only cover lectures 6 to 10, the second half of the course. Okay, so that way the course is chopped up into 2 parts, and it's not so overwhelming at the end, right? You know how some courses you have to do a final exam and then you have to review all the material in the course. That can be overwhelming. So we're not doing that. Okay? It's just first half and then the second half. Does anybody have any question? Okay, so let's go back to the
So, Mr. Vincent, any handout or resources?
Yep, I'm gonna show you right now. Okay, excellent question. Let's go back to the eCentennial. Everything you need is on the eCentennial. Okay, so you go to content. You're gonna go to lecture. Let's say we choose lecture 1. That's what we're doing today, right? So these shows you like the folders within lecture 1. We have the lecture note folder, and then we have the study resources. So if we go to the lecture notes, you will have the PowerPoint presentation. I'm not going to click on it, but like you can, right? If you click on it, and then you know what? Let's just click on it. If you click on it, there's a download button here, right? You want to download it, and then it goes onto your computer, right? You can save a copy. You can print it out. If you don't have a printer, you can have a digital version of it, and then you can just type notes while we go through the slides together. Okay. If you have a printer, but then it's expensive, right, to print things with ink and stuff like that. So there's a printer-friendly version over here. That's the actual PowerPoint. And then this is a printer-friendly version, 6 slides per page. It's the same thing, okay? It's just, but then like I just put 6 slides under the same page. So that way, you instead of printing 60 slides, you only have to print like 5 pages front and back, right? So you can do that. And these are the notes we will be going through together in class, in our face-to-face. What's also important is for you to print the study guide. Each lecture is going to have its own study guide. The study guide, well, as the name implies, help you study. Okay, so they have questions. You can find the answers in the PowerPoint slides. Sometimes we will take up some of the questions in class if they are particularly, complicated or particularly important. We'll take it up in class. I will also be posting the answers to these questions at the end of the lecture. Okay, so what do I mean by that? We meet twice a week, right? So lecture 1, we are not going to be able to finish it in one class. Right? So we'll do as much as we can today, and then we will try to finish up on Wednesday. Right? When I finish teaching the whole lesson, then I will post the answer key to the study guide. But really, the study guide is for you to check your answers, right? I've noticed people who just print the answers from the study guide without doing it themselves. I can see, because I can see what kind of file you access online, right? So that's not really a good practice, right? You should try to do it yourself first, and then you can compare your answers with the model answers. Okay, but these are questions that you would use to help you study, right? To help you prepare for the quiz. Any questions so far about where to find the notes? Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the lecture folder. There is also study resources. Right? So many people like to ask, is there a textbook that you have to purchase? No textbook. You don't have to spend more money. You already spend a lot of money to be in this program. You don't have to buy textbook for my course. We'll be using an online textbook. Okay, so if you click on the supplementary reading, it will take you directly to the online textbook. Okay, so you can bookmark it. I think there's even like a download button somewhere. Okay, so that's the textbook. But the textbook contains extra information. Yeah, you are not going to be responsible for them. Right? The textbook is just for your reference only. My PowerPoint slides and the study guides are the stuff that you will be tested on. Okay? I think the notes are pretty comprehensive already. They already contain all the information that you will need to know. But some people feel better if there is a textbook. Okay, they want to read more about it. Okay, but like I said, that's just extra stuff. As it says here, right? The readings are not mandatory. They're only meant to supplement the lecture recordings, as in like our lecture, right? Some people like to hear things from a different perspective. So there are these video resources. If you click on it, it will take you to this thing that I put together. So instead of you going through the YouTube or the internet to try to find videos for a particular topic, I did that and then I put them all together on the same page. Okay, so later in the lecture, we'll learn something about the Rady and Pasteur experiment, and some people want to hear it again from a different perspective. So there's a video for you to watch. Okay, so same thing as the notes. The videos might contain extra information that you don't have to know. These are meant to supplement your learning. Okay, like you don't have to watch all of them. If you get it the first time, then it's okay, right? Like I'm just trying to save you time. That's all. Right? And you can put comments here if you want. Add some comments. There's some like buttons. It's like social media. Okay. Let's go back to the study resources. There are some crosswords that you can do. Right? Because there's a lot of terminologies, right? In biology, there's a lot of new terms that you have to know. So these crosswords is going to help you. You can do them on your phone. You can do them on the computer, right? So the ability to maintain a stable internal environment despite environmental changes. So, if you know the answer, you can type it in. If you don't know, you can click solve. And then say, oh, it's homeostasis. Okay, so you can do them again and again, and it will help you remember some of the terms. All right. There are these self-quizzes that you can do as well. Each lecture has a self-quiz. It's not like the real thing. The real thing is a lot harder than the self-quiz, okay? The self-quiz is just make you feel good about yourself kind of thing, okay? Kind of activity, okay? So you do the self-quiz, you're like, okay, yeah, I think I'm good with the basics, and then I can study more for the actual test. Right, so they're not very long, like 6, 7 questions, sometimes 10 questions. And it gives you a way to familiarize yourself with the learning platform, okay, like how to take tests in an online environment. You want to be familiar with the process, right? You don't want your first quiz to be the first time that you actually is doing an online test, right? Like you want to practice a little bit. So that's what the self-quiz are for. Now, the first self-quiz, it says here, requires Respondus lockdown browser. Right, so let me explain. Did your teacher this morning explain to you guys what lockdown browser is? By any chance?
No.
No.
No. Okay. So this is a common practice that is not just myself, but other teachers they probably will tell you closer to test day. Okay. So in an online environment, we try to promote academic honesty, right? We want to make sure that you're actually doing your own work and stuff like that. So one of the ways we do it is to use this thing called the lockdown browser. Okay, so when you click on this link, it will ask you to download and install the latest version of lockdown browser. So you need to do that. Okay, and that's why I give you this practice self-quiz, right? So you can do it before the actual quiz. Once you do it for one course, you're going to be set for all the courses that uses the lockdown browser, okay? Not every teacher is going to use it. Most, I think, will be using the lockdown browser. And what it basically does is when you are doing your online quiz or test, the software will prevent you from opening another tab in the internet browser. It will prevent you from opening another internet browser, and you won't be able to access anything on your computer. Basically, it locks your computer to the quiz, and you won't be unlocked from it until you finish the test. Okay, so that's basically what it means. All right, so so for my course, I am only using the lockdown browser for that purpose. Okay, some of your teacher might also have a requirement for like a webcam or something like that. I will let them explain to you what that is. But for me, you do not need a webcam. Okay, but you will have to install the lockdown browser. Is that clear?
Yes,
Professor.
Yes.
Yeah. So please try that right earlier rather than later. I had students who do it for the first time on the day of the quiz, and then something goes wrong. It's very hard for me to help you that way, right? If you try earlier and you experience problem, I can help you try to resolve the problem. I can help you get in touch with IT, right, to figure it out. Having said that, I want to tell you something. And what I'm about to tell you is for my course only, okay? Your other teachers might have other preference, other opinion, other rules. You follow theirs. But for my course, I want you to know that it is okay. It is okay for me that you use your notes during the test and during the quiz. That's okay. Okay. So the lockdown browser will prevent you from searching things from the internet. It will prevent you from accessing your digital notes. But if you have print out notes and you want to use it during the quiz, that's okay with me. During the test, that's okay with me. But I will tell you, do not let that be a psychological blanket. A lot of people think, okay, I have my binder with me. I don't have to study too much. You are not going to do well. You don't have time on the quiz to flip through the notes and find things on the go. Okay, it's very hard to do that. Right? So what you can do instead is create like a help sheet, a summary sheet, right? You write down things that are particularly difficult for you, and then you have it there with you, right? Just in case, right? Just in case you can't remember everything and you need to take a quick reference, quick peek, that's okay. Okay, don't have the whole binder. You could if you want, but I'm just telling you. Okay, from experience, I know that's not gonna work too well, and it's okay. It's not cheating. Okay, to use the notes.
Mr. Vincent, sorry, is a quiz, are quizzes in written mode or multiple choices?
Yeah, very good question. That was the next thing I was gonna say. Very good. You're keeping me on track, Fatima, by asking a question, by guiding me to my next point. So the format of the quiz, okay? Typically, there are your standard multiple choice questions, okay? So they are knowledge-based for the most part. Yeah, like involves recollection of information, right? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Right? It's pretty straightforward. They were like 1 mark each. Okay, 1 mark each. And then there are these multi-select question. Multi-select. Okay, we'll call them MS question. They are 2 marks each. So the questions will have more than one correct answers. You have to choose all the correct answers in order to get full marks. You can get part marks too. Okay? If you choose some and then you miss some, you can get like 1.6 or like 0.8, depending on the questions. It's difficult for me to explain exactly how the marking works. If you really want to know, you can ask me later. Okay, but basically, if you get all the right answers, then you get 2 marks. Okay? If you get none of them, you get 0, and you can get anywhere between 0 and 2 for partially correct answers. Okay? So these tends to be the one that gives people some trouble. Okay, because you really have to think about it, right? And then there are also application questions. Okay, application questions. They're also just 1 mark question, and they are multiple choice as well. But these goes beyond the basic information recollection. It's not just going to be recalling things. Okay, you actually have to apply it to a new situation. You have to think a little bit. And then sometimes you would also have short answers. Short answers. Okay, this is where you will have to type out your answers. Okay? Not a lot though, like 3 or 4 sentences. And that's why we have the lockdown browser as well, right? Because we don't want people to be, using AI to help them with their short answer questions, right? Okay, so like you really should be doing this in your own words. Right? The question will say that you have to answer in your own word. Right? If it's directly copied from the notes or from the internet, then you will not get full marks. You might not get any marks at all. Right? So you really want to be answering the questions using your own words. And the quiz typically are like 45 minutes. It depends. I will let you know the exact time, as we get closer to the test. Now, at Centennial, we also offer accommodations for students who have learning disabilities. And if you have an IEP from high school or from before, or you feel like you need accommodation, extra time for the test, then you need to book an appointment with, it's called CALS, okay, Center for I forgot what this acronym stands for. I'm sorry, but it's Center for Accessible Learning and Counseling Service. Yes, that's what it is. Okay, but if you search Centennial and then you search CALS, you will see their homepage. Let me see if I can do that for you. There you go. Okay, I will post that in the chat box. Okay, so you can book an appointment, talk to them. They will give you the documentation that explains what kind of accommodation you need. And then I will get a copy of it, and then I can provide you with extra time for the test, if that's something that you need. Okay, but I think the time is pretty reasonable on the test. Okay, it's it's reasonable, I would say. Yes, go ahead, please. There's a question.
Yeah, thank you, teacher. So do you explain for us before the quiz or before the test, or do you cover before we take a quiz something, resources, for example, to help?
Yeah, okay, yep. So that's what the study guides are for, right? The study guide will help you prepare for the quizzes. We will also be doing practice question during lecture, right, to help you see what kind of questions to expect. And before the test, we will have an official review as well. Okay, the quiz we don't review because we don't have time. Okay, we actually have a lot of things to cover in the course. But yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there's just one more thing I want to talk about, and then we should really get started. So that was the lecture. There's the tab for virtual labs. But don't worry about it for now. Okay, I'll explain it later when we get closer to the lab day. None of you are gonna do a lab this week, right? Like it's just doesn't make sense. Okay, you do it when it's time to do it. There is some useful information. Okay. The course outline you can download. This is a legal document. It's like an agreement between the college and you in terms of what you are learning. So you wanna keep a copy of it. Maybe later you go to another college for another program, and they also have a similar course. Then you can show them the course outline. You're like, hey, I took this at Centennial. Can I be exempt from it, right? Okay, so keep a copy. You never know when you're gonna need it. What you really need to download is the weekly schedule. If you download the weekly schedule, it will tell you what's happening each week. So this week we will be doing this first lecture, scientific method. And then our first quiz will be on January 24th. Okay, you still have to come to class for the quiz. Okay, but I forgot to mention, the quiz will be available on the day from 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. So you can do it anytime during that window, right? If you want to do it early in the morning, before your kids wake up, you can do that. Okay, or you want to study until the night and you do it at 10 p.m., that's okay, right? You can do it anytime between the 6 a.m. and 11:59 p.m. window. I know some of you have work as well, right? So that's why the window is longer. And again, that's only for my course, okay? Another teacher might have a shorter window, longer window. You have to listen to what they have to say. But for biology, 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. The lab is going to be due February 7th, and I'm going to be explaining what to do later on, okay? Later in the course. For now, we'll just move on. Second quiz, family day, there's no class, and then you will have your first test right before the engagement week. Okay, for those of you who are new to the college system, the engagement week it's like people call it the reading week. Okay, you basically have a week off, okay, and then you can relax, right, rejuvenate yourself, and then you come back for more for the second half. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I think that's everything I wanted to show you for now. Does anybody want to ask anything, comment on anything before we do the actual lecture? Okay.
Is all the work open, or it's whatever we're gonna cover is what's open, whatever we have, like we're not covering it is hidden?
We're not covering what? I'm sorry?
Is all the work gonna be open? Like all the slides, are they going to be open, or they're going to be, some are gonna be hidden and some are gonna be open?
Oh, no, nothing is hidden. The whole course is here, okay? Like if you want to go ahead and do lecture 8, no problem. It's already there, okay? So nothing is hidden. You can go around and click on just to explore, right? Some people like to download all the slides, okay, and have them ready on the computer. That's a great, strategy as well. Cindy, you have another question?
Yes, I do. So for the labs, is it the same way how the quizzes are? So you have like all day to complete it as well, or the labs have to be finished within like the class time?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question as well. There are 2 labs. The first lab is going to be done in the same setting as a quiz, but you do have I think I gave you 1.5 hours for that one. Okay, it's also
Okay.
available the whole day. Okay, but for the
The whole day.
second,
Okay.
yeah, but for the second one, you actually have a whole week to do it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That one I'll tell you more about later, but that one it's more like an assignment that you have to fill in and stuff like that, do some calculations, and then you submit it to me. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. I was just wondering about the time frame. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, guys, it's very important. I want to tell you. Okay, I am not a what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I am a pretty reasonable person. Okay, so if you have to miss like a assignment or something for whatever reason, okay, like you just have to tell me. Okay? But I appreciate it if you tell me before, okay, not after. What really it's really challenging for me is someone miss a quiz and then they tell me a month later. They're like, oh, remember quiz 1 last month? I missed it. Can I rewrite it? Probably not. Okay. But if you tell me ahead of time, or even, 1 day or 2 days after it happened, and then you give me a good reason, that's okay. Right. I can arrange it for you. Okay. But you have to be proactive. You have to reach out to me. All right. What was something else about the test I want to tell you about? Yes, during the test, things can happen, okay? Maybe your internet got cut off or whatever. That's okay as well. Don't panic, okay? Just send me an email. You know, if your internet comes back up, great. You know, we can restart it. Or if it doesn't come back up, that's okay. We can always work something out, okay? But, you know, if your internet goes down every time there is a test, then obviously we have a problem, okay? Then it's suspicious, right? Okay. But if you have a legitimate concern, legitimate issue, right? Just email me and we'll get it sorted out. Okay? All right. I think that's enough talking from me. Let's do the actual lecture. I just want to ask you guys, how many of you have printed the notes? Okay, this is a poll. Right? We will do a lot of pollings during the class. So if you have the notes, can you choose A? If you don't have it, please choose B. Do you have the notes?
Including soft copy, we already downloaded.
Yeah. Soft copy, hard copy, doesn't matter. If you have it, then you know, let me know. If you don't have it, let me know.
Like have printed or what? I didn't get the question.
Oh, I'm saying I just want to know if you have the notes or not. That's all, right? If you have it, please choose A. If you don't have it, please choose B. Soft copy is okay. Soft copy is okay. All right. If you don't have it, I just posted the direct link to the page. Okay. Looks like half of you have it, half of you don't have it. But that's the link, okay? And you want to have it with you as I'm going through these notes. Okay. Even though this is online and you can't, like, I can't see you, you should still be taking notes as if you were in class. Okay. I want this to be an interactive experience. Okay. I'm not just gonna be going through the slides. Okay. I'll be writing notes, so you should have paper with you. Okay. And I'll be posting the notes afterwards as well. Okay. Rita, I see that you unmute. Did you have a question or? Okay, that's all right. Okay, so first lecture, right? First lecture is called the scientific method. Scientific method. Okay, now this lecture is directly related to your first lab. Okay, so a lot of things that we go through here, right? A lot of the answers that are related to the questions in the first lab will be found in this lecture. It's not, you know, specifically biology related per se. It's more like science in general. But like I said, it's very important to still pay attention as it relates to the first lab. So what is biology? Okay. Biology is the scientific study of living things. Now, that's the simplest way to put it. Okay. Biology is the scientific study of living things. There are some branches in biology. Right? We have things like anatomy. Anatomy is what it called. Okay? Like this is called the heart. This is called the liver. That's called the kidney. And then inside the heart, there are different parts. Okay? So anatomy, that's a branch of biology. What is it called? Physiology is another branch. Right? This is what does it do? Okay. So we know that it's called the heart. We know the heart has some valves in it. What do the valves do? Right? So the studying of the function, that would be physiology. Right? So next semester, you will be taking anatomy and physiology. Okay, I just taught my class this morning, anatomy physiology class. Right? So in that course, you'll be learning more about the human bodies. And for those of you who plan to continue in a healthcare program, like practical nursing, for example, having a good foundation in anatomy and physiology will be important. There's also histology. Histology is the study of cells and tissue, right? So this is a slide of a particular organ in the body. You might not know what this is now. Anybody want to take a wild guess what this is? Usually like to ask this just, just to see if anybody know. What organ do you think this is? Wild guess. It doesn't matter if you get it right. Get it wrong, I mean. Any takers? You can type it in the chat box. You can unmute and tell me. What do you think you're looking at here? No?
Like a type of cells, like the nervous system has like neurons.
Right. So like
Or-
we're looking at cells, right? Exactly, right? So histology is looking at the cells. And Alida said kidney. You're right on. Have you done this before? Very good. And this is the kidney. Okay. And if you don't know this is the kidney, that's okay. After next semester, you look at this, you'll be like, this is totally kidney. Okay. So that's what you'll be looking at, in the program. And then we also have genetics, which is another branch of biology. So genetics talks about heredity. Okay. We have a genetics unit in this course at the end. So let's say you have brown eyes, you marry someone who has blue eyes. What's the probability that your kids are going to have brown eyes as well? Okay, that's genetics. So, different branches of biology. But the definition is the scientific study of living things, right? So it makes sense for us to kind of think about what exactly are living things. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. Right? I'm sure you have no problem to identify what's living and what's non-living. So something like a tree, a fish, zebra, they are living things. And a teddy bear, a ball, skateboards, these are non-living things. Okay? So living things tend to have certain characteristics that they all have, and then non-living things would be missing those characteristics, right? So does anybody want to give me an example of a characteristic that is shared by all living things? What do they all have in common?
The use of oxygen.
Okay, so they use up oxygen.
I
That's
would
a
say
good start.
living things do breathe and non-living things don't.
Right. Okay. So some people would say they breathe, right? Okay. But it's tricky, right? When we define it like that. So, for example, if we say living things needs oxygen, well, so does a car. Your car needs to burn the fuel, and without oxygen, it cannot, burn the fuel, right? So sometimes when we define these things, we have to be a little bit more specific. But that's a good start. Okay, we have some good ones there, and we're gonna look at it in more details later on. Yes, Fatima, you see your mic
So
unmute.
I think living things are like working like organization.
Organization, yeah. So they're organized in a particular way. Okay, that's also a very good one. Yes. How do you say your name? I see a number there, but that probably is not your
Yeah,
name.
I have to edit it, that one. My name is Mehret.
Meheret. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, the one we have the common, I will say the sense, for example, the temperature we sense, the taste, and then the five senses.
Oh, five senses. Okay, so you're able to detect things. Okay, yeah, that's good. So all these are good ones. Okay, maybe one more. Yeah, Rita, go ahead. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Just correct me, okay? And I will try my best to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say like with living things, reproduction takes place.
That's right. They are able to make copies of themselves, right? Very good. Okay. But I want to bring out a theme to you, and that is, even though we try to categorize things one way or the other, living and non-living, but in science, there are often gray areas, okay, overlapping things that we just can't fit it into one way or the other. And virus, that's what this is. This is a virus. It's one of those things. Okay, virus is one of those things that scientists always have a hard time classifying it as a living thing or a non-living thing, because it has a potential for life, but it's not really alive on its own. Okay, so one of the things people were saying earlier is like living things can reproduce, right? They can make more copies of themselves. Humans can make baby humans, right? Zebra, baby zebra, so on and so forth. But viruses, it's able to make more copies of itself, but only when it infects a living thing on its own. If you just have the the COVID virus in the air, right? Okay, it's not going to be able to replicate in the air. Right? If it could do that, then the pandemic would be like way worse, right? Okay, but they can't. They cannot make more copies of themselves unless they infect a living thing first. Okay, so for that reason, viruses, it's kind of living, it's kind of non-living, it's kind of in this gray area. And the point I'm trying to make is not everything will fit one way or the other. There are a lot of exceptions, right? And that's just something you have to keep in the back of your mind as we learn more about biology. So although life takes many forms, but all living things share a set of common characteristics, common features. Okay, so we have the poison dart frog right here. That looks very different than this jellyfish. This is actually called the Portuguese man of war. You get stung by one of these, it's gonna hurt real bad. This is something called the oxalotl. You can see it at the Ripley Aquarium if you've ever been there. Okay, so these are very different looking organisms, but they all share similar characteristics. So let's take a look at 7 characteristics of living things. Okay, now if you have your study guide, then you can fill it in. Okay, look here, list 7 characteristics of living things, right? So you can fill it in now, you can fill it in later, you can write it down on a separate piece of paper, whatever works for you. Okay, so the first characteristic of living things is order. Okay? Living things exhibit order. Okay? So there is left-right symmetry most of the time, and this is particularly true for animals. Okay? If you look at a butterfly, they have left-right symmetry. Humans have left-right symmetry. Okay? If you look at structures in nature, they are complex. They have order associated with it. It's not a random arrangement. So this is a seashell. All right, if you cut it open, you can see the spiral, right? Very organized. And in fact, if you do the measurements from the center to the edge, it gives the same ratio every time you go in to an extra layer of spiral. The petal numbers are multiples of certain numbers depending on which kind of flowers you're looking at. And this organization is not just something that happens on the external level. If you go down all the way to the cellular level, the organization is still there. Right? This is what the plant looks like on a cellular level. You have a vessel here that carries water and nutrients for the plant, and you can see the cells are organized and arranged in a particular manner. Okay, so all living things have order. It's not a random thing. It's not. It has purpose to its structure. Talking about order, there is this concept of hierarchy of organization. Okay, so starting at the very microscopic level, the building block level, we have atoms. Okay, you'll learn more about this, in your chemistry class and from me later on as well. But for those of you who don't know, atoms are building blocks that makes up everything in the universe. Okay, so example would be like carbon, hydrogen. Does anybody have other examples? You can type it in the chat. You can yell it out. Other example of atoms that makes up the person.
Water,
Uh,
nitrogen.
okay, nitrogen is good. Yeah, water, as we will see, is actually something else. Maybe one more. Okay, Leah said calcium, good. What do we breathe, guys?
Oxygen.
Oxygen, right? So these are building blocks. These are atoms, okay? Now, atoms can come together to form molecules, right? So you said water. Water is actually H2O. So that's 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen together, right? That's an important molecule for living things. Okay? Does anybody have another example of a molecule, maybe? Anything at all?
CO2.
Yep, CO2 is another molecule, although we are going to be breathing them out. Okay, so we have different molecules. Okay, maybe sugar as well. Don't worry about memorizing these right now. Okay, we'll learn more about later. I'm just giving you an overview. Okay, so this one is sugar. Okay, sugar, it's main fuel that our cell uses. So these are small molecules. They don't have a lot of atoms in it. Okay, water has 3 atoms in it, and sugar has like 24 atoms. Right? That's not super big. The really big one, we call them macromolecules, and we'll learn all about macromolecules in lecture 2. These include things like carbohydrate. Okay, what other big molecules? Think about the food groups that you eat. Okay, besides carbohydrates, what is another nutrient that we need in our food, in our diet?
Protein.
Protein, that's right. So protein is another macromolecules that we need. Okay, lipids, that's another one. So these are big molecules. Instead of having, 2, 3 atoms per molecule, we have hundreds and sometimes thousands of atoms in the macromolecules. Okay. And then these macromolecules can come together to form organelles. These are like tiny structures inside your cell that helps the cell perform its function. And then we have cells. So this would be lecture 3, and this is also lecture 3. And actually the rest of the course will be focusing on the cell, everything that's going on in the cell. How do they copy themselves? What happens if the cell is not doing what it's supposed to do? Like if your genetic material mutates, how does the cell become cancerous? So that's going to take you all the way to lecture 9. And then at the end of lecture 9, at the end of the course, lecture 10, we'll be learning about tissue. Okay, so that's the cutoff of this course. And we're going to go up this hierarchy of organization all the way up to tissue. And the next semester, right, physiology, anatomy, you will learn the organs and the organ system. But this organization is it's a good framework to keep at the back of your mind as we progress through the course, so you know how we are building the whole organism. Okay. And again, just stop me if you have questions. It's not a problem at all. All right. So first characteristic is organization, right? Okay. Second characteristics is homeostasis. Homeostasis is to maintain internal balance. Right? So despite changes in the environment, if it gets cold, if it gets hot, right, we are able to maintain an internal balance. Okay? The ability to do that is called homeostasis. Right? And homeostasis is not just talking about temperature, right? There are many things we need to keep constant within the body. Right? Someone mentioned about calcium earlier. You want to have homeostasis for the amount of calcium in your blood. Too little calcium, your bones might get very, very weak. Okay, you get osteoporosis, for example, right? But too much calcium is not good either. Too much calcium can cause kidney stones. And so we need to have the right amount. We need to maintain the proper level. We need to maintain homeostasis. Okay. Now we can achieve that. Living things can achieve homeostasis either physiologically or behaviorally. You can either use physiological mechanism. Mechanism means method, okay? So you can either do it physiologically or through behavioral mechanism. So what is the difference? Okay? Physiological basically means your body does it for you. Okay? You don't have to learn it. It's just something that your body will automatically do. So let's say it's really, really hot outside. Actually, today is kind of cold. Okay, but like, let's think about a really, really hot day, a really, really hot day. And you're waiting for the bus to come. What are some of the things that your body will do for you to cool you off?
Make you shiver.
When it's really hot, though, when it's really hot.
Sweating.
Sweating,
Sweat.
exactly. Right? When it's really hot, you sweat. The sweat helps you cool down, right? Okay. You cannot control that. It's just something that your body does for you. On the other hand, if it's really cold and your body shivers, right? Okay, shivering helps you become warmer. Some organisms cannot maintain internal body temperature like humans, right? We always keep it at 37 degrees Celsius. But for something like a lizard, they are cold-blooded. And they do not maintain a constant body temperature, but they need to stay warm. So instead of shivering and things like that, they would go and stay on a sunny spot. They go to the rock and basically have a sun bath. Right? That's a behavioral mechanism. Right? That's a thing that they learn to do, right? To keep themselves warm. What about us? If it's really cold, what's an example of a behavioral thing that we do to keep us warm?
Take on jacket
That's
or
right, exactly, right? Yeah, you put on a jacket, right? Okay, so your parents probably told you, or you probably tell your kids, put on a jacket, otherwise you're gonna catch a cold, right? Okay, so that's behavior. So combining physiological and behavioral mechanism, we help maintain homeostasis. Okay, dog, they like to stick their tongue out when it's hot. That's a behavior thing. Okay, when the saliva evaporates from their tongue, it cools them off. Okay? When you have a cut, your body will stop the bleeding, right, on its own, right? So what do you think that is? That physiological or is that behavioral?
Physiological.
That's right, it's physiological,
yeah.
right? Yeah, a behavioral thing to stop the bleeding would be like put a band-aid on, right? Okay, like put pressure on it. Whatever you do, don't suck on it, okay? So that's difference between physiological and behavioral. Right? So all organisms is able to maintain homeostasis. Okay, so order, homeostasis. Number 3 is growth and development. Living things go through stages of growth and development from birth to mature adults. Okay, we look very different when we were a baby compared to now, right? We grow, we develop. Some things look drastically different, like a butterfly. It was like completely different in the caterpillar form than the butterfly form. But regardless, the outcome, okay, there is going to be some growth and development that are involved as the organism progress through life.
So, Mr. Vincent, what about the living things that that they are like one cells? How they development? They are not growing, right?
Which one is not growing? Sorry, come again.
Like which one? Who those are like one cells? Just
One
like
cells. Okay.
micro.
Okay. So yeah. They might not be they might not be undergoing drastic changes, but then the cell will get bigger, even though they're a single cell. Okay, one of the reasons why cell divide is because they become too big, right? Okay, so it's going to change in size. So that's considered as a type of development, right, and growth.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the next one is the need for energy. Okay, need for energy. So living things obtain energy in different ways. Either they are consumers, which means they have to eat something, right, to get energy. So animals are consumers, or they are producers. Producers would be like plants, and they make their own food from sunlight. Okay, and something like fungus, they are actually consumer as well. Okay? Like they don't eat things per se, but they break down decaying, dying, dead materials, right, to obtain energy, right? So that is consuming something else. Right? So regardless of how you get your energy, the requirement for energy is a characteristic of living things. Okay. So what I was trying to say earlier is that we don't just take one of these things and use it to classify whether something is living or not. Right? Like a car also needs energy. Your cell phone also needs energy, right? But that's only one of the characteristics, right? When we try to classify whether something is alive or not, living or not, we have to use all of them, right? Like the cell phone also has complexity to it, okay? But then it doesn't grow, it doesn't develop, right? So and it doesn't really maintain homeostasis, right? And so like then we know it's not living. Okay, another one is the ability to respond to stimuli. Right? The singular for stimuli is stimulus, L-U-S, but environmental stimuli are basically trigger. Okay, and this one actually works hand in hand with homeostasis. When there is some kind of trigger, some kind of changes in the environment, the organism is able to maintain an internal environment. Okay, by responding accordingly. If it's really cold, that's the stimulus. The body respond by shivering so that you can maintain homeostasis. But there are other kinds of response to the environment. Okay. Anybody know what this thing is called? This plant here with a bee there. You guys seen this before? I think they sell this at the pet store sometimes. No?
It looks like a cactus.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a cactus now that you mention it. But this is called a Venus flytrap. Okay, Venus flytrap. And what happens is when a bug lands on them, they will close, okay, and trap the bug, and it will digest the bug. Okay, so that's a response to the stimuli, to the environment. Okay, something needs to touch it first, and then it will close and it will digest the bug. Just quick side note: they live in soil that is really acidic, and they don't have enough nitrogen in the soil, so they digest the bugs to obtain the nitrogen. Nitrogen is important for growth of plants. When you touch a sharp surface, okay, not purposely, like accidentally touch a sharp surface, your body automatically recoil, right? So that is a response to the environment. It's a reflex, right? So all living organisms can do that. Even the single cellular organisms can do that. Okay, under the microscope, if you add certain chemicals to a dish of bacteria, you can see them move in the other way. Okay, they are responding to these environmental triggers. Okay, next one. They are able to reproduce. Someone already mentioned this earlier. Right? So organisms are able to reproduce their own kind. Okay? Panda is going to make panda babies, so on and so forth. But sometimes two different species might mate, but then the end result is something that is sterile. Okay, I'll give you an example. What do you get when you have when you breed a horse and a donkey? What is the end result? Horse and a donkey.
A pony?
A pony is a baby horse, okay, but good try. Anyone else? Yes, a mule, right? Yeah. Do you guys know mule? Right, these are really strong. They use it for agriculture, you know, in the early days, or like carrying heavy loads. But a mule is sterile. Okay, you cannot have two meals and make more meals. It doesn't work. Okay, so whenever two different species, even if they are compatible in terms of mating, the offspring that they get is going to be sterile. Okay, so organisms reproduce and make their own kind. So just to quickly recap, we are talking about characteristics of living things. Okay? And if you have been writing them down, right, we have organization and the first one, homeostasis for the second one, growth and development, requirement of energy, respond to environmental stimulus, and then reproduction.
Reproduction.
That's right. So one more is the ability to adapt and evolve. Okay. So populations can evolve over time so that they are more adaptable to the environment that they're living in. Okay, so what that means is more adaptable means it will enhance their survival and it will allow them to reproduce more. Okay, so evolution is not about an individual. Okay, it's about the whole population. Right. So let me give you a brief example. You guys see a seahorse here, right? It's right there. If you didn't see that, or if it's hard to see, that's because it's blended into the background, right? Okay, so how does the seahorse becomes like that? Okay, this is the misconception about evolution. Okay, people think that there is a seahorse. Let's say the seahorse is blue. Okay, and then the seahorse start living in this environment that's really red, and so to evolve, the seahorse is gonna change its color and become, you know, reddish white. Okay, so that's wrong. Okay? Individuals do not evolve. It's the population that evolves. So what does that mean? It means that, let me do a note here for you. It means that in the population, you have different kinds of seahorses. Okay, so let's say I'm just gonna draw a seahorse like this. Okay, so let's say there are these, like, you know, black seahorses, and then there are some red ones. Okay, and then maybe there's some yellow ones. Okay, let's just keep it like that for now. Okay, then maybe there are more, not these ones to begin with. Okay, these are terrible seahorses, but you get the idea. Okay, so, you know, in the population there are variations, just like there are variations in humans, right? We all look different, we have different traits. Okay, some of us have straight hair, some of us have curly hair, some of us have brown eyes, blue eyes, right? So these are variations caused by differences in our genetics, right, in our DNA. So that's the same situation with the seahorses. Okay, and their genetic variation gives them different colors. Okay, and so let's say they're living in this environment with the you know, red coral. Okay, red coral reefs. Okay, and then I don't know what eats seahorses, but there must be some predator that eats them. Okay, so the predator comes along. Which one are gonna get eaten easier?
Black and yellow ones.
That's right. So this guy gonna get eaten because they stand out, right? Okay, and so the red one is able to survive and not get eaten, and then they therefore is gonna be able to breed and have more babies, and the babies that they have will also be red. Okay, and then this goes on, and then more gets eaten, and then you will have more and more. So over time, the population favors the trait that allows them to survive better, right? So the whole population evolves. It's not like this little black one is going to turn red to save itself. It doesn't work like that, right? Okay. Individuals do not evolve. A population does. Okay. Individuals do not evolve. Population does. Okay. So any living things are able to do that. They are able to evolve. So that's it. Those are the 7 characteristics of living things. Do we have any questions? Anything you want to ask? All right.
I
Why
have
don't we?
a
Yeah,
question, teacher. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead, please.
So the one we studied now, 8 of characteristics
Hmm.
that living things have, this to be a common, do they have these all characteristics or?
Yes, they all. So if you think of anything that's living, they would check off all 7 of these characteristics.
They have to meet all these
That's right.
characteristics. Okay, thank you, teacher.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we'll take a short break. We will resume at 1:45. Okay, just 5-minute break for you to stretch your legs, and we'll do more after. If you have any questions during the break, feel free to leave them in the chat box, and I'll get back to you afterwards. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, let's continue. Now that we have defined what living thing is, let's return to our definition of biology, right? The scientific study of living things. So the next part we have to decode is the meaning of scientific study. Right? We know what a living thing is now, right? But like, what does it mean by scientific study? So what is science? The word science is derived means came from. It came from a Latin word meaning to know. Right? A lot of the science terms actually have a basis in Latin because that was the original language when people started doing science. Okay, so there's a lot of root words that are related to Latin. So science in Latin is basically to know. And it's a way of understanding what's going on around us based on inquiry, based on asking questions. And human by nature are curious, right, about what's going on around us. Like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? We try to find answers to those questions. So science is driven by asking questions, essentially. So there are 2 main scientific approaches that are being used in science. The first one is called discovery science, and then the second one is called hypothesis-driven science. Okay, so today I think we will only have time to talk about discovery science, and then we'll do hypothesis-driven science next class. So let's start with discovery science. Discovery science involves studying a system, studying something without changing it. Okay, you are just observing. Right? You just observe, only observing. Okay, you are trying to see what is happening. You're recording what you're seeing, and then maybe you try to ask questions about what is it that you're observing. You're trying to discover what's going on, right, with a particular thing. So that's why it's called discovery science. Now we can observe. So an example would be like, observing global warming. Okay, you can also be observing a new species of animals. You just discover them and you want to find out, everything about them. So you start by watching them, right? Observing it. Now, observations that we make can be qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative or quantitative. And you want to know the difference between the two. Okay? In your lab, I'm going to ask you to list these things out, and you have to be able to tell me the difference and be able to apply them. So qualitative observations, the first one, qualitative is like the word quality. Okay, so when we try to feel the quality of something, we use our senses. Okay, we use our senses. So let's write down some examples of qualitative observations. Okay, qualitative. Okay, using our senses. What sense do we have? Give me one sense that we have. We'll do one sense at a time.
Taste.
Taste, sure. Okay. taste. Now, we usually should not be tasting anything in a science lab, okay? Unless you specifically like work for food science or something like that. Generally, it's not a good idea to
Touch.
taste things.
What
Yeah,
about touch?
that's right. So we can touch. Okay, but hold on. Let's go back to taste first. If we are allowed to safely taste something, what are some description of taste that we can use?
Sour, sweet,
Good, right? So you should be writing these down, okay? Sour, sweet, anyone else? What else can things taste like?
Bitter.
Bitter, yeah. Okay, maybe one more.
spice.
Spicy, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Spicy is actually technically not a taste, but that's okay. I understand what you mean. I'll put spicy here, okay? Spicy here. Anything else?
Salty.
Salty. So we have our senses here. I'm gonna put a star here. Not actually a taste. Okay. And then there is one other taste. I don't know if you guys know this one. This is called umami. It's when you taste like MSG. Okay, like you think about eating meat and chips, that flavor that you get, it's called umami. You have a taste bud for that. All right, touch. What are some description of touch that you can
Smooth.
Yeah, smooth. Anyone else?
Rough.
Rough.
Rough. Yeah. Couple more. Again, you can type them in the
Prickly.
chat. Prickly, yeah. Prickly, yeah. Anything else? Think of all the things that you've touched throughout the day. Like, smooth, rough, prickly, anything? Anything else?
Soft. I guess it's kind of like smooth, maybe.
Something can be smooth but not soft, like a tabletop, right? Tabletop is pretty smooth,
Okay, yeah.
but that's not soft, right? So opposite of soft would be hard, right? Okay. All right, let's move on to another sense. Taste, touch. What other sense do we have?
Smell.
Smell. Good. Okay. How do we describe the smell of something?
Like strong.
Nice. Yeah, strong. It's so
Right, strong, yeah.
Sweet.
Weak. Did you say weak?
Sweet.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Yeah. See, nice is tricky because what's nice to you is not necessarily nice to me, right? Like every time at the mall when we walk by that, that store that sells all the like the really strong soap, and the
Bath
what
and
is
Body Works.
yeah, the Bath and Body Works, right? Like, oh my kids would be like, oh, that smells so nice, and then I'm like, no, it does not. It's giving me a headache, right? So like, nice is really like a personal thing, right? Okay, so we try to
personal. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So we try to use words that are Cinnabon. Oh, I actually like Cinnabon though. Okay? So see, that's another difference, right? So what's really nice for one person is not necessarily nice for another. So these tend to be more subjective, right? And as you will see, that's the main problem with qualitative observation. Okay, it's subjective, right? And that's why if you ask a different person, you might come up with a completely different set of description. And that's why we need to have another kind of observation, the quantitative that we will see. And maybe two more. There are two common ones that I'm looking for. People usually have them. Anything at all?
Bad smell or like an awful kind of smell, so like a rotten egg or something like that.
Sure. So it smell like it
Spoiled,
smell.
I guess.
Sure, that sounds like a good one. Spoiled, right? Another word for strong is like pungent, right? Some people say the smell is really pungent. And it can also smell like nothing. What's the fancy way of saying it doesn't smell like anything? odorless, right? Okay. 2 more, please. We have more senses. We have 5 senses, right? Okay, 5 senses. If you have a 6th one, please call my number. What's other senses?
Skin.
What is it? Sorry.
Skin. Skin. SKIN.
Oh, keen sense. If you say someone has a keen sense, it means they're just very sensitive, right? In that particular one.
Sight.
Hearing.
Did we say
Hearing.
here?
Yeah, good. So we have hearing, and I hear people say sight as well. So these are the 5 things, right? Now, hearing is a little bit tricky in the context of biology. The only example I can think of right now is like if you're observing a group of animals, okay, and you're trying to listen to how they communicate with each other, then you can describe what you're hearing, right? You're like, oh, when they make this howling sound, it's like they are calling for a mate or something like that. Okay, so I don't have description for that. It's very abstract. I'll say example, observing how animals communicate. Does that make sense? Okay. Like I guess like in chemistry, right? If you took chemistry in high school, you might say, oh, when you put the burning splint into the test tube, you hear a pop sound, and then you know it's hydrogen, right? So like you can have these description using sound, but those are the only contexts. And sight is a lot of things. Okay, like you can describe things by looking at it, such as their shape. What else? Just throw them at me. Type them in the chat. Okay, please participate. Come on.
Color.
Yep, color. Anything else? Just by
Size.
looking. Size, yeah. Like big or small, right? Okay, not necessarily with numbers, because as soon as we use numbers, we are doing quantitative, as you will see. Okay, maybe one more. Anyone else?
Move.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Move. Seeing like how
Movements. Yeah,
movements.
sure. Again, right? Like if you're observing an animal, is it crawling? Is it running? Is it sliding? Is it flying? Like what is it doing, right? So like just by looking, there's a lot of things you can tell. All right. All right. I hope that was straightforward. Now, our senses are quite limited as human beings, okay? Sure, we can see things, but we can't see things that are really small. So we need to use tools such as microscope to help us see, right? Smaller things. To see very far away, we can use telescope. Right? So we often use different tools to extend our senses. Right? To listen to the animal, we might need to hold like a microphone to amplify the sound. Okay, so these tools allow us to extend and enhance our senses. So what are some qualitative observations you can make if you are looking at this picture? Okay, now when you do qualitative observations, it's important to not assume you know what you're looking at. Okay, as soon as you think you know what you're looking at, then you start, being subjective, right? Okay, you try to just don't think about what this is. Like if you look at this and I ask you to describe it using your senses, obviously you can't touch them. Okay, but then what are some words that you can use to describe them? Okay, maybe give me 3 or 4, as a class.
The shape of them.
Okay, so what shape would you say they're in?
Maybe oval, I guess.
Sure, yeah. So oval shape, that's a good one. Anyone else?
Or
The
the amount that
size.
is there.
Say that again, Cindy. What is it?
The amount that is there, like how many of them
Okay,
that
but
you
that's
see.
that's number, right? So when we use
Oh, okay, yeah,
number,
quantitative.
then it will be the quantitative. And someone else was saying something, sorry?
Small in size.
Small in size, okay? So they are small. Appears to be small. But then again, right, like it's this one is hard because there's nothing to compare to. Okay, like how do you know this is small? Maybe this is something that is in space and it's like super big. It's bigger than the planet, right? Like it's big and small. It's hard to justify when you don't have a reference. But sure, I'll put it there. Another one,
What about the chain?
the
They-
chain.
Yes.
What chain?
For example, they connect, I think, two. They
Oh,
look
okay, I see what
like
you mean. Yeah,
two.
so you can say
Yeah.
some are connected together, right?
Yes.
Okay, connected together.
Their color,
Yeah, what's the color?
gray.
Yeah, see, that's good, right? Like that's something that no one can argue with, right? It's gray, right? Like it's the color. You show it to anyone, right? You know, people probably gonna tell you it's gray, right? Okay, so these are qualitative observation. You understand? So if I show you a picture on the quiz and I ask you to list some qualitative observation, right, as a like a written response question, hopefully you can do it.
Sir, can we add like changes in
What
them?
kind of changes?
Like because if we observe them like in amount of time, we can see like they are copying or changing.
Right, I agree with you, but then just based on the picture alone, right? That's not
Okay.
something we can deduce, right? Okay. See, I know what you guys thinking. You guys are like thinking, hey, this is bacteria. And then now you are trying to put everything you know about the bacteria into the context, right? Okay. So that's something to avoid doing in these kind of questions, right? Just don't even think about what you're looking at, okay? Just think about if you show this to someone who have never seen a bacteria before, and then you ask them to describe it, right? Like what are some of the words that we will use? All right, so moving on, the next one is quantitative observation. These are measurements, and therefore they are more objective. Okay, we are going to be using tools for these measurements. So example of quantitative observations would be things like length. Okay, so we are observing something under the microscope now, and the microscope usually have a little measurement bar here for reference. So they're like, okay, this line here, this white line is 10. This is called micrometer. Okay, 1 meter equals to 1 million. Okay, 1 million micrometer. That's how you say it, micrometer. Okay, so this white line here is 10 micrometers. So you can say, okay, looks like this is about half the length of the white line. So maybe about 5 micrometer long. Okay, so that's a number, right? It's more objective, but not necessarily the same. Like you show it to someone else, they may say, you know, that looks more like 6 micrometer to me. Okay, it depends on what kind of tools you're using. Like, and it also depends on like, are you estimating or are you like doing accurate measurement, right? And so what else besides length? Doesn't have to be related to this picture. Like in general, what other measurements can you do, huh?
Weight,
The weight, that's right. Like how heavy is it, right? Weight. Okay, like is it like, don't think of this picture. Think of like an object. Like is it 5 kilograms? Is it 2.4 pounds? Like what is it, right? Couple more, please.
Weight.
Yeah, we have the weight. Yeah, what else?
Yeah.
height,
Sorry, one more time.
height,
The
the long,
oh, the length. Yeah. Did you say the length?
The amount that
the
is there,
Okay, the amount, right? So like number of objects, maybe. Okay. And then maybe one more width. Okay, yeah, that's good. Width. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, the width. Yeah. And you can talk about things like the speed, right? Speed. If you're observing an animal again, how fast is it running? How fast can it run, right? If you are observing a chemical reaction, you can talk about how fast is it producing a product, right? So all these are numbers. Okay, it involves measurements. If you only use your senses, then it's qualitative. If you're using numbers, then it's quantitative. That's the main difference. All right. So, discovery science, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about different ways to do science, right? The discovery science is just observing. You're not touching anything, you're not changing anything, you're just looking, observing, right? And then by observing what's going on, you can use a type of logic called inductive reasoning to come up with a generalized idea to describe what you are observing. Okay, that sounds really complicated, but all you're doing is coming up with a generalization. Okay, you look at this, you look at that, you look at that, you're like, oh, you know, I see some similarities. Right? You take all these specific cases and then you come up with a broad statement. Okay, so I'll give you an example that will help you understand. Hopefully, it'll help you understand. So sometimes I take my kids to Dollarama and I let them like buy things, okay? And then one time, my daughter, she was 6 at the time, okay? So she found this stamp, right? And then she came to me and said, hey, can I buy this? And then I was like, how much is it? And she's like, I don't know. It doesn't say, there's no tag on it. And then I'm like, okay, well, time to teach you about inductive reasoning. I mean, I didn't say it to her, right? Like I just thought about it. So I took her to the aisle where she got it. And then I asked her, okay, so let's take a look at other stuff here, okay? How much is the eraser? And then she's like, oh, it says $2. Okay, good. How much is the ruler? And she's like, $2. How much are the I don't know, like paper clips or something? She's like $2. And then after a few more examples, she came to a realization. She's like, oh, everything from this section is $2, right? So that's inductive reasoning, right? The observation was that, okay, that's $2, that's $2, that's $2. And then the generalization is like, everything here is $2. Now, here's the thing. She might not be right. Okay, just because you get it from the same spot doesn't mean it's $2, right? Dollarama is no longer, Dollarama these days, right? They might be $4 or whatever, right? But the point is, you don't have to be correct. You don't know if you're correct. You're just coming up with a generalization based on your observations. Okay, I've observed this, so I make this generalization. I don't know if it's right or not. I will have to test it. I will have to run some experiment maybe later on to verify it. But inductive reasoning is just about coming up with a broad statement. Do you guys understand?
Yeah.
So here is another example.
Yeah.
Okay, like we have a fly here. This is actual picture of the wing of a fly. Okay, the fly is made up of the fly has structures that are made up of cells. Okay, you look at a tree and then you're like, oh, I see cells. You look at a fish and you're like, oh, I see cells. And then you look at the mushroom, you're like, I see cells. And then you also see cells in the bird, right? So what's the logical conclusion of this? What's your broad summary?
Yeah, all living things are made of like cells.
Yeah, exactly, right? All living things are made up of cells, right? So that's what happened at the beginning. There was this botanist who was studying plants, and he noticed, this was like shortly after microscope was invented, and he noticed all the plant samples he observed under the microscope have these structures, okay, these cells. And then there was a zoologist who was observing the same thing in the animal, and then they met with each other, and then they come to the realization, oh, it seems like all living things are made up of cells. Yes, go ahead. There's a question.
Okay, so that means inductive reasoning is starts from general to goes to specific.
Are you talking about inductive?
Yes, inductive reasoning is
Inductive is specific to general.
Okay, specific to
Because we'll be looking at individual examples, right?
yeah, individuals
Yeah, so specific to
to general. Yeah.
generalization.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to write this down for you. This is specific to general. Okay, you're taking a bunch of like observation number 1, observation number 2, 3, 4, 5, making a bunch of observations, and then you're like, you know, making a statement. Please ask me questions, guys. If you need clarification, now is the time to ask, because I'm gonna talk about deductive reasoning before we go, and I don't want to confuse you. Okay, so if you have anything you want to ask about inductive, now is the time to do so. No, everybody's happy? Okay, well, let's move on. Deductive reasoning, oh, thanks for the thumbs up, guys. Deductive reasoning is the other way around. Now that I have a general statement, can I apply it to a specific example? Right? Can I apply it to a specific case? Back to my daughter. After this was a real story, right? Like after she realized, oh, everything on this shelf is $2, and then she took it a step further. She's like, so this stamp is also $2, right? So that's like taking the generalized statement and then applying it to the unknown, right? Well, since I took this from the shelf, it's probably $2. Again, it doesn't mean that she's correct, but that's how science goes, right? Okay, we make a prediction and then we actually have to test it out later. Okay, so if all organisms are made of cells, and then you apply it to like an ant or something. Okay, I haven't looked at the ants under the microscope, but since the ant is living, it probably also is made up of cells, right? So that's deductive reasoning, and it flows from general to specific. Okay, so like you have a broad statement, right, some kind of broad statement that you make, and now you apply it to different situation. Okay. What about the dandelion over there? You think the dandelion is going to be made out of cells? Probably. Dandelion is it's alive, it's living. Okay, based on my general statement, it should be made up of cells. Okay. All right. So let me show you a question, like the hard ones, right? Okay. Like I told you on the quiz, there will be straightforward multiple choice. An example of straightforward multiple choice would be like this. Which of the following is not a characteristic of living things? Right, so that's really straightforward. You look at your list of 7, you memorize them, you pick out the one that is not. That's called knowledge, okay? Basic recollection. It could also be a multi-select question. Okay? Choose all the characteristics of living things from the list below. And then you check off all the ones, right? What about application? Right, so this is an example of an application question. Okay. I promise you I will give you this same question on the test. Okay, so on your first quiz, okay? You will see this question on the first quiz, guarantee. So why don't you try that now? I'll let you read it first and I'll launch the poll afterwards.
It looks like A, but
Well, keep your answer for now. I'll launch the poll and let everybody try. Right, go ahead, choose something. The poll is anonymous, so please choose, please participate. Okay, anyone else? I have about 10 responses. Waiting for a few more. Gonna close the poll in a couple more seconds.
I can see the poll.
You cannot see the poll? Yeah, sometimes it happens depending on your device. And that's okay. If you can't see it, just, write down your answer. Okay. So that's the result. The two popular choices is A and C, and then some people choose D and B. All right, so let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about this. Let me copy it over to the class notes here. All right. So, which of the following is an example of deductive reasoning? Deductive reasoning. What is deductive reasoning again? Is it general to specific or specific to general?
General to
General to
specific.
Yeah, so that's the first thing you need to write down. General to specific. Okay, when you do the test online, you should have papers in front of you too, right? To like scribble things. You can't just do everything on the screen. It's very difficult. Okay, so let's take a look at first. All viruses require a host to replicate. Right? All viruses. That sounds like general. Okay, so that might be it. Okay, I'm gonna put a check here for now. We're gonna read more. Next one. COVID-19, HPV, Ebola, influencers are viruses. They require a host to replicate. Therefore, all viruses require a host to replicate. That is going from specific to general.
Specific to general.
Yeah, that's not the answer. Okay. All viruses require a host to replicate. Okay, so that sounds like a general statement, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put question mark actually. Okay, we don't know. Next one. COVID-19 is a virus and it requires a host to replicate. Ebola is a virus, therefore it also requires a host to replicate. This is going from one case to another case, right?
Yeah.
So one case to another case. It's just one to one. It's like not general to specific, not specific general. That's not deductive reasoning. Okay, so now the two contender, A and C, and those are the two popular choices, right, that you guys gave. Which one is the correct one? Okay, so here it says all viruses require a host to replicate. COVID-19 is a virus. It must require a host to replicate. This sounds very similar, but it's backwards. COVID-19 requires a host to replicate. Therefore, COVID-19 is a virus. Okay, so the problem here is the order, right? The logic. Okay, so let's see. Virus requires a host to replicate. And then here it says COVID-19 is a virus, so it requires a host to replicate. Right? It's like the logic goes from like, so to speak, right? Pink, blue, and then the other one is also pink and blue. Now let's take a look at the other sentence structure. All viruses, so virus requires a host to replicate. Then it says COVID-19 requires a host to replicate, therefore is a virus. So in terms of logic flow, is actually backwards, right? Pink, blue, and then blue, pink. Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. Okay. All birds have wings. Okay, all birds have wings. Bees have wings. Therefore what? Bees are. If I follow this logic, what should I go? What should I put in the blank?
Birds.
Birds, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but of course that's not true. But let's take a look. All birds, as opposed to virus, I put birds. All birds have wings. Bees have wings. Therefore, they are birds. So you see, if you flip the order of the logic in the sentence, then it doesn't make sense, right? So that's why C is incorrect. Okay, that's why C is incorrect. So A is the right answer. Okay, for those of you who did not choose A, I hope I have convinced you why A is the right answer. Okay, so like I said, I will put this on your first quiz. By the way, everybody's gonna get a slightly version quiz. Okay, like I have a pool of questions that the program is gonna randomly pull questions from. Okay, so like but I'll make sure all of you get this question. But don't memorize it, right? Don't see this question, but like, oh, it's A. I remember it's A in the class. Like the order might be different, right? The A, B, C, D choices, right? You still have to understand it and read it. And that is it for the first class, guys. Okay, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your attention. I will post the notes online afterwards and the recordings. It's not going to be right away, okay? Like I need some time for the video to be processed, but later today, maybe in an hour or so, you can go back to the course homepage and you will see me post a new news item, okay? And it will have links that shows you where to get the recordings and stuff like that, okay? So I will see you all on Wednesday at 12:30. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye
Thank
for
you
now.
so much, teacher.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Take care, guys.